The air in the holding cell smelled of fear and disinfectant. Vela Korzath sat motionless on the metal bench, her violet eyes fixed on the wall opposite her. The markings on her pale blue skin, once symbols of her clan's honor, were now just identifiers for her execution order. Prisoner 87 Delta, stand for transfer. The automated voice echoed through the chamber as the force field flickered. Vela rose steadily, refusing to show weakness. 6 cycles of fighting in the Resistance had taught her how to die with dignity. The rebellion against Supreme Commander Drax's regime had cost her everything, her family, her home, and now her life. But she regretted nothing. The door slid open, revealing a human male in the dark gray uniform of the Allied Systems Coalition. Taller than most humans she'd seen, with shoulders that suggested strength without menace. His eyes, a color Vela couldn't name, studied her without malice. "I am Specialist Finn Phyllis," he said, his voice unexpectedly gentle. "I've been assigned to complete your sentence." At least they didn't send a Karathi executioner to gloat, she thought. The human didn't place restraints on her wrists as protocol demanded. Instead, he simply gestured toward the exit. "We have a 3-day journey to the Eastern Deadlands," he explained as they walked through the stark corridors of the detention center. "The transport is waiting." Guards watched impassively as they passed. Vela noticed how they deferred to the human with a mixture of respect and unease. The Allied systems had only joined the war against the Resistance in its final year, a devastating alliance that had ultimately crushed her people's hopes for freedom. Outside, the twin suns of Carathis Prime burned in a sky the color of bruised flesh. Toxic mining operations had poisoned much of the atmosphere, another crime of Drax's regime that her resistance cell had documented and tried to expose. The transport vehicle was small, designed for efficiency rather than comfort. As they departed the sprawling capital city, Vela prepared herself for the humiliation and hardship that usually preceded executions. Prisoners were typically deprived of water, subjected to propaganda broadcasts, and sometimes tortured for final confessions. Instead, after they cleared the city perimeter, Finn reached into a compartment and handed her a water container. "Drink," he said. "The filtration system on this transport isn't great, but it's clean enough." Suspicion flared in Vela's mind. Is this part of some new protocol? Kindness before killing. The human's expression remained neutral. No protocol. Just decency. As the barren landscape rushed past them, Vela studied her captor executioner. His hands were steady on the controls, a small scar visible across his right knuckles. He wore no insignia of rank beyond the basic Allied Systems emblem, and carried only a standard-issue sidearm. When they stopped as darkness fell, he set up a small shelter without securing her. When she questioned this, he simply said, "Where would you go? The nearest settlement is 300 kilometers away through wasteland." Besides, his eyes met hers with unexpected intensity. "I don't think you'll run." That night, unable to sleep, Vela watched as Finn studied a small data device, occasionally glancing in her direction. Something about his behavior didn't make sense for an executioner. The question burned in her mind until she couldn't contain it any longer. "Why were you chosen for this assignment?" she asked. Finn powered down the device, his face half illuminated in the dim light. "I volunteered." "Why would anyone volunteer for execution duty?" A long silence stretched between them before he answered. "Sometimes the assignments we accept aren't for the reasons others believe." He shifted, looking directly at her. "Get some rest, Vela. Tomorrow will be revealing." For the first time since her capture, Vela felt something dangerous stir within her chest, something that felt suspiciously like hope. Dawn broke with harsh, copper-colored light cutting across the wasteland. Vela awoke to find Finn already dismantling their makeshift shelter, movements efficient but unhurried. The second day of her final journey had begun. "We're changing course," Finn announced, not looking up from his work. "The main transport routes will be monitored." Vela studied him, confusion evident in her expression. "Monitored? By whom? I thought my execution was sanctioned. Finn finally turned to face her, decision visible in his eyes. We're not going to the Eastern Deadlands, Vela. I'm not taking you to execution. The words hung in the air between them. Vela instinctively stepped back, muscles tensing. What kind of sick game is this? No game. Finn reached into his pack and withdrew a small data core. 3 months ago, I was assigned to intelligence analysis. I intercepted communications between Commander Drax and his inner circle, evidence of atrocities far beyond what's publicly known. Mass sterilization of rural provinces, experimental weapons tested on detained civilians. Vela's breath caught. Those were resistance claims. We had witnesses, but no proof. You have proof now. He offered her the data core. Your execution order came through my division. I recognized your name from the intelligence files. You were gathering evidence of these crimes. So what's your plan? Defection. Her voice hardened with suspicion. Why would a human risk everything for an alien rebel? Finn's expression remained steady. Because before I was a soldier, I was a medic. I've seen enough death. He paused, loading the last of their supplies. And because what's happening on your world is wrong. They traveled in tense silence for hours, cutting across rocky terrain that no standard transport routes covered. By midday, the first signs of pursuit appeared, distant specks of aircraft sweeping in organized patterns. They noticed the deviation. Finn said grimly, pulling their vehicle into the shadow of a massive rock formation. Your sentence specified execution within 3 days. When I don't report in with confirmation, they'll escalate the search. You'll be labeled a traitor, Vela said, realization dawning. The Allied systems punishes treason with death. Yes. His reply was simple, unembellished. Then why? Because sometimes doing the right thing demands sacrifice. His eyes met hers. The resistance has contacts in the outer sectors, yes. People who could use this intelligence. Vela nodded slowly. If we can reach the Shattered Valley, there's a hidden outpost. But it's at least 2 more days through the worst terrain on Carathis. As darkness approached, the distant whine of search vehicles grew closer. They abandoned the transport, continuing on foot through a labyrinth of narrow canyons. When Vela stumbled, exhausted from the day's journey, Finn caught her arm, steadying her. His touch lingered longer than necessary. That night, huddled in a cave barely large enough for 2, Vela watched Finn check his weapon for the 5th time. You should have left me, she said softly. Saved yourself. That was never an option. In the dim light of their emergency lamp, his features seemed softer, more vulnerable. From the moment I saw that execution order with your name on it, there was only one path forward. Something unspoken passed between them, fragile, unexpected, as distant searchlights swept the canyons beyond their hiding place. By the 3rd day, they had entered the Forbidden Zone, a stretch of Carathis Prime contaminated by ancient weapons testing. Skeletal remnants of abandoned settlements dotted the landscape like monuments to forgotten suffering. We can rest here, Finn said, leading them into a half-collapsed structure. The radiation levels are low enough for short-term shelter, and the mineral content in these ruins blocks scanning technology. Vela sank down against a wall, wincing. A close encounter with a patrol the previous night had left her with a deep gash across her shoulder. Let me see that, Finn said, kneeling beside her. From his pack, he produced a compact medical kit. You weren't lying about being a medic, Vela observed as his fingers gently cleaned her wound. Field medic, 3rd Division, before military intelligence recruited me. His touch was precise, professional, yet Vela couldn't help noticing how her skin responded to the contact. You're lucky. No signs of infection yet. Lucky, she repeated with a bitter laugh. Is that what I am? Finn applied a healing compound to her shoulder. You're alive when you should be dead. I'd call that fortunate. As he worked, Vela studied him more closely, the faint lines at the corners of his eyes, the controlled way he breathed when concentrating. Not at all what she'd expected from a human soldier. "Tell me about your world," she said suddenly. Finn paused, surprised by the request. "Earth? It's complicated. Beautiful in parts, destroyed in others. Much like Carathis, I suppose, though our self-destruction took different forms. And your family? Gone." His voice grew distant. "Regional conflicts before the Allied systems formed. You? Similar story. Different war." Vila reached up, her fingers brushing against his as he finished bandaging her shoulder. "Why does it always come back to war?" That night, as temperature dropped, they were forced to share body heat. The intimacy of their situation, enemies by definition, allies by choice, created a strange tension. Lying close enough to feel his heartbeat, Vela found herself wondering about paths never taken, lives never lived. "If we survive this," she whispered, "what then?" Instead of answering, Finn turned to face her. In the darkness, his hand found hers, fingers intertwining. The gesture said everything words couldn't. Uncertainty, hope, desire. When his lips finally met hers, it felt like crossing another kind of border, one just as dangerous, just as irrevocable as the territorial lines they'd already transgressed. "This is madness," she breathed against his mouth. "Perhaps," he agreed, pulling her closer, "but it's real." That night, amidst ruins and danger, they found something neither had expected: connection that transcended species and allegiance, comfort in a world that offered little. By morning, the dynamic between them had shifted irrevocably. As they continued their journey, the occasional brush of hands or exchanged glances carried new meaning, a private language in a hostile world. The shattered valley appeared on the horizon like a wound in the landscape, a massive fissure where tectonic activity had torn Carathis Prime's crust apart centuries ago. Somewhere within its maze-like depths lay the resistance outpost Vela spoke of. "My contact is named Jeevan," she explained as they picked their way down treacherous slopes. "He operates a mining facility as cover for resistance operations. If he's still alive, he'll help us transmit the intelligence." As they descended deeper into the valley, signs of habitation emerged, cleverly disguised infrastructure, hidden solar arrays, and finally, the mining facility itself, nestled against a cliff face. "Something's wrong," Vela whispered, noticing the lack of security measures. "It's too quiet." Before Finn could respond, floodlights blazed to life around them. Armed figures emerged from concealed positions, weapons trained on them. A tall Karathi male stepped forward, his insignia marking him as Karathi Special Forces, Specialist Thelus. "You've led us on quite a chase." Finn positioned himself slightly in front of Vela. "Major Drav, I didn't expect to see Allied Command's liaison to Karathi forces out in the field. When one of our most promising intelligence officers goes rogue with a high-value prisoner, it warrants personal attention." Drav's eyes shifted to Vela, especially when that prisoner possesses intelligence that could destabilize the entire sector. Realization dawned on Vela's face. "The outpost, Jeevan. Your resistance friends have been gone for weeks," Drav confirmed coldly. But their communications equipment made excellent bait. Guards moved to separate them, rough hands seizing Vela. When Finn resisted, a rifle butt struck him across the temple, sending him to his knees. "Your service record earned you one consideration, Thalus," Drav stated. "You'll be transported back to Allied Command for court-martial rather than immediate execution. The rebel, however, remains under Karathi jurisdiction." Blood streaming down his face, Finn locked eyes with Vela as they dragged her toward a separate transport. In that moment, a silent communication passed between them. When he moved, it was with unexpected violence, breaking free from his captors, seizing a weapon, and creating chaos. Not to escape, but to reach the data core he'd handed to Vela days before. "Run," he shouted, pressing something into her hand as guards swarmed him. "Northeast Ridge. Backup plan." Using the confusion, Vela broke free, clutching both the data core and the small device Finn had passed her, an emergency beacon. As she fled into the maze of the valley, the sounds of struggle faded behind her. Hours later, hidden in a narrow fissure, she activated the beacon. The small screen displayed coordinates and a simple message Finn must have programmed days ago. Trusted contact. Show data. Tell them I sent you. Through tears of rage and grief, Vela stared at the message. Finn had known, had prepared for his capture or death from the beginning, and he had sacrificed himself to ensure her escape. 72 days after leaving Finn to his fate, Vela stood in the newly established provisional government headquarters in Galactic Prime's capital. The data core had proven more valuable than either of them had realized, containing not only evidence of atrocities, but access codes to Karathi defense systems. The revolution had been swift, surgical, with Allied systems forces divided, many supporting the revelation of truth, others clinging to the existing power structure. The Karathi people themselves had risen up against Commander Drax's regime. Councillor Korzeth, an aide, approached, using her new title. The prisoner transport has arrived from the Allied detention facility. Vela's heart raced as she followed the aide to the landing pad. For weeks, she'd searched prisoner manifests, interrogated captured officers, followed every lead. When confirmation finally came that Finn was alive, imprisoned but not executed due to divided Allied command, she had made his release a non-negotiable condition of the peace talks. The transport doors opened. Prisoners emerged slowly, blinking in the sunlight. Most were political detainees, victims of the old regime. Vela scanned each face, fighting to maintain her composure. And then he appeared, thinner, a new scar bisecting his left eyebrow, moving with the stiffness of someone who had endured interrogation methods that left no visible marks. Their eyes met across the platform. For a moment, neither moved, as if fearing the other might disappear. When Vela finally reached him, her official dignity abandoned. Words failed her entirely. Her fingers traced the new scar on his face. "The data core," he said hoarsely. "Did it? It changed everything." She interrupted. "Just as you said it would." His arms encircled her, public protocols forgotten. "I never expected to see this place again," he whispered against her hair. "Or you." Later, in the privacy of her quarters, they spoke of all that had transpired. The provisional government, the peace negotiations, the promise of a new beginning for Galactic Prime. But words soon gave way to more primal communication, the relearning of each other's bodies, the celebration of survival against impossible odds. "The Allied systems wants me to serve as their ambassador to the new Karathi government," Finn said afterward, his fingers tracing patterns on her skin. "A convenient way to avoid explaining why they're not executing a traitor." Vela smiled. "And I need someone I trust to help rebuild this world. Someone who understands both sides." "Is that a professional request, Councillor Korzeth?" There was warmth in his eyes that had nothing to do with politics or peace treaties. "It's whatever we want it to be." She pressed her forehead to his. "We've crossed worlds to find each other. Everything else is just details." Outside, the sunset painted the newly cleared skies of Galactic Prime with colors unseen for generations. Atmospheric processors, technology shared willingly now rather than hoarded, had begun the long process of healing the poisoned world. Like the planet itself, they were scared but not destroyed, changed but not broken. Together, they had sparked not just revolution, but something rarer, the possibility of genuine peace between worlds. As darkness fell, they made plans for tomorrow, and all the days after. No longer fugitives, but architects of a future neither had dared imagine when their journey began. Retria.